He's not an impressive species. This is my friend Darth Vader, and Darth Vader, yeah, she likes him. But Darth Vader is an African emperor scorpion. So today, African emperor scorpions are the largest species of scorpion in the world. Who can hazard a guess on where in the world would I find an African emperor scorpion? It's a very difficult question. Africa, right there. You guys are a smart crowd. Smarter than you look. It's good. Perfect. So that's exactly right. You guys can find African emperor scorpions throughout Central Africa, so pretty much all in that middle region there. Unlike a lot of scorpion species, these guys are more of like the outsides of a forest region of scorpion as opposed to living in the deserts, burying under sand. So that's why they have more of a black coloration to them. Another point on the coloration of scorpions, very, very neat. In regular light, we see them as more of a black hue. If you were to take kids, have you ever gone like cosmic bowling or gone and used those like black lights where your t-shirts glow in the dark? You guys know what I'm talking about? Yeah? So if you take one of those black lights, it's a UV emitting light, okay, so it's a special type of light. And if you take this light and you shine it on a scorpion, pretty much any species to my knowledge, it will actually glow in the dark. It'll glow from UV light. It turns a really cool greenish blue color. It's quite beautiful and really, really cool. And one of the most important and interesting things about this that I enjoy, which may sound kind of counterintuitive when I tell you what it is that scientists don't really know why it happens. I don't know about you guys, but when I learn about things about animals that I study and I work with that nobody knows why it happens, I get really excited. A lot of people think a lot of times in like biology and in life in general, a lot of like the low-lying fruit. Like people have pretty much discovered everything by now, you know? Come on, it's 2015, there's nothing new left to find out. But there is so much out there. And for me, it's super, super exciting. So some of the potential hypotheses, and a hypothesis is when we make an educated guess on an experiment, why something might happen. Some people think that it could be to attract prey. So a lot of animals will see different wavelengths of light than we will. So they think bugs may be able to see the fluorescent color on the shell of a scorpion. This may attract them. And other scientists will also observe that when scorpions are directly in sunlight, and it actually, they move a lot less, okay? They're kind of more agitated, they don't really enjoy being in the sunlight so much. I think it might start to degrade some of their chitinous exoskeletons. The scorpions usually hide under rocks. It's where they really prefer to live. So they think that this also may be a way for them to see where the sunlight is hitting their shell, so they can decrease the amount of sunlight that is wearing down and degrading their actual exoskeleton for their defense. But again, these are just two hypotheses. We actually have no idea really why it happens, but all I know is it is really cool. Go home, YouTube it, it looks really, really neat. Even at your local pet store, if they have scorpions, they probably have a black light there. They can probably show you. It's really cool. I keep forgetting to get one. I need to buy one so I can do this. So, a lot of people ask me when I bring up my scorpion. This is a totally fine question. It makes perfect sense, but Sean, there's no way you're holding that scorpion with that stinger. Obviously, you've had the stinger removed. Now, this makes kind of sense. You know what I mean? You don't want to hold an animal. It's very, very dangerous. Obviously, you don't want to get stung or anything like that. Now, I also want you to think about this. I'm going to ask you a question back. Do you guys think it would be fair for me to go and just do alterations and literally do surgical procedures on my animals to make them easier for me to handle with you guys? I think that's like the most unfair thing in the world. In fact, hazard a guess, what do you guys think I would do with an animal that I thought was just too dangerous for me to handle with you guys? Yeah, I would not bring it. It would not be up here on stage with me. It would be sitting in one of those displays, or it wouldn't even be here at all. We just wouldn't have it at the zoo, you know what I mean? If you have an animal that is too dangerous for people to handle, then we just have no reason to handle it, okay? When you see people on TV handling these, you know, free-handling venomous snakes without any tools or anything like that, like talking about how cool and awesome they are. Oh yeah, I've had this snake for 35 years and this cobra's never bit me. Well, you know what? It probably doesn't bite you, but one day it will, and you'll die. And that's what happens all the time with people. So a lot of people get this false sense of confidence with a lot of animals they work with for a long time. And that's something we really try not to foster at our zoo. So for him, I absolutely did not remove any of the stinger, okay? The stinger is very much there. It's quite large. The bulb on the end of it here is his venom sac. He does still possess venom. Okay, he's a scorpion. He needs it for survival. But this is not a scorpion species that is dangerous to me. Well, 1.8% of all scorpions are venomous enough to be considered medically important. Okay, they can be very dangerous to people. The Arizona bark scorpion, okay, the African death stalker. Those are two examples of scorpions that I would not be holding with you right now. Okay, absolutely not. I'd be looking at them in a glass jar. That's how I would handle them. Right? So this guy here, African emperor scorpion, is very, very mild. So there's one kind of key characteristic of a scorpion that we can look at. And from this characteristic, we can get a very crude estimate. I would never bet on it. I wouldn't pick up a scorpion just because of this without knowing exactly what it is. I'll stress that. but a crude estimate on how toxic the scorpion venom may actually be. Does anybody have an idea of what body part might be able to tell me relatively how toxic the scorpion might be? Anyone have a guess? Got my eye on you. Sean, I think it might be the tail. Actually, it's not the tail. A lot of people think it might be, but the tails are pretty caustic of scorpions. Some of them are thicker, some of them smaller. But anyone else have a guess? Me. Yeah, you? Yeah, that's exactly right. It's their claws. So claws are known as pedipalps in scorpions. That's what we call them. Spiders also have pedipalps too. As arachnids, it's one of the defining features, except the pedipalps in spiders are just two little kind of like fake legs in the front. If you ever look at the big tarantula here today, we'll probably have one out later on. Look at those two appendages in the front that aren't true legs, and those are the same things as these, except they're not pinchers, which is kind of neat. So the pedipalps are what we look at. Now venom in the animal kingdom is made for attacking and subduing prey. That's why it was evolved. It's not evolved primarily for defense, as most people think. If animals with venom just went around stinging and biting everything they were scared of immediately, well, they would die really quick. Because what happens when a mosquito comes up and just bites you? Bam. So every spider, every scorpion stung everything that it was scared of, and they would just get stomped out really quickly. Evolutionary speaking, it just wouldn't work. Natural selection would never select that trait, that behavioral trait. It wouldn't happen. So they use it to attack and subdue their prey. They actually begin the digestion process outside of their body. Most animals that have venom, they don't have the ability to chew and macerate their food before they swallow it. So what they'll do, and scorpions are no exception, spiders, snakes, they'll bite or sting their prey. So for Darth Vader here, this African Emperor scorpion, he may stab the cricket, inject his venom into it, and then I'll turn the inside of the cricket basically into a delicious cricket smoothie that he can just like slurp right out. It's very, very easy for him. He doesn't have to chew it or anything like that. However, this guy won't do that, and that's because he has such large claws. You're exactly right there. His claws are so big that he can grab his prey, he can tear it apart, he can manipulate it, and in effect, use his claws like a pair of teeth. So he can grab them, mash them up, and this means he doesn't have to waste his energy creating this really, really toxic, really strong venom. And venom is a very energetically costly thing for an animal to produce. So through millions of years of evolution, they have evolved these very, very big claws and started to not use their tail less and less and less and less. And thus, their venom became less and less toxic over years. And now, some people say that it's about 1/10 of a bee sting. I don't even like to compare it to that because it makes you think it's going to burn a little bit. It literally just feels like when you're putting your poppy on in November and you accidentally stab yourself in the chest. I do it at least twice every single November. Like, it happens all the time. But that's what it feels like. It's just like a puncture, okay? If I was to get stung right now in front of you guys, I would absolutely probably say a 4-letter word, like ouch. But I would be totally fine, guys. It would not hurt me. I'd be able to keep talking to you guys. I wouldn't have to go to a hospital. I wouldn't have to get an EpiPen or anything like that, okay, guys? Absolutely harmless. So with that in mind, I would like to ask who would like to come up and be my first volunteer to hold Darth Vader with me. Absolutely. So, you can take a picture? Cool. Alright, have you ever held some broken before? No? What's your name? Melanie? Melanie, let's get that one. We're gonna, actually, Melanie. So, I'm big into fashion. You may not guess it, but I am, okay? Big fashion guy. So, I was reading the other day, Fashion Weekly, and a big Paris fashion show going on right now. The big thing in Paris right now, that's what they call it in Paris, is to take scorpions, clip-on earrings? Exactly the same thing. Right? Basically, they take them, and they just clip them on to this ear. And they usually only do one ear, because, fashion, right? And, it's just they walk around with it like that. What do you think? And you're very smart. I absolutely would not pinch you. I'm totally joking. They don't do that in Paris, although I absolutely would not put it past them. Honey, give me your hand like this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put Darth Vader right on here. I will warn you, okay? Scorpions are very, very, very proficient ticklers. Okay, you fine with that? You want to think about it for a second? Final answer? Sorry, you're great, buddy. Just going to stick right there. Quite unopposing, isn't it? So a lot of people ask why he isn't immediately stinging your hand or biting it or anything like that. Now, first of all, again, these guys don't use their tails very often, so they don't sting really at all. But they do pinch when they want to. But for this scorpion, they don't even have a brain like you do, right? They kind of have a free-floating cerebral ganglion, if you really want to get into it. So they don't really have an ability of higher thought, okay? For him, he's just sitting on the ground right now. Your hand is now the ground. And what's the point of starting to sting and grab and pinch the ground, wasting your energy for absolutely no reason? That's basically what's happening. Feels pretty cool, though, right? Cool. Awesome. Thanks. Give it a round of applause. Awesome, guys. Let's get one more person to come up and hold Darth Vader if you would like. Yeah? Come on up, yeah. What's your name? Pierre? Yeah. Girl, try to get him over. Yes, yeah. Excellent. So we are going to take Darth Vader here, and we're going to put him back in his cage. And I'm going to bring out the next guest with you guys. Now, my next animal is an animal that I don't allow anybody to touch. Why do you think I might not allow anyone to touch this animal? What do you guys think? Yeah? It's poisonous. It's a really good question. It's a really good point. So, this group of animals, it's been found that they may all possess a little bit of poison on their skin, and that may be true to a certain extent, but this guy certainly in no way has enough poison to be dangerous to us. Anybody have another idea on why we might not let you guys touch this animal? Yeah? It could attack your head? Your hand, okay. It could attack your hand, or your hand for that matter, right? Who's to say? Whatever mood you was in at the time. But no, it won't attack your hand. And in fact, I don't let you guys touch this animal, not because it could be dangerous to us, but because it could be dangerous to him. This is my good friend, Booger. Hi, Booger. Hi, John. That's how you talk. So this is Booger. Booger is a white's tree frog. And white's tree frogs are native to Australia. So you guys think these guys live in the deserts of Australia, right in the outback? Absolutely not. Where would they live? In the rainforest. Yeah, you're right there. Exactly. So frogs are amphibians, which means they need to have a very moist, aqueous environment, which means there's a lot of water in it. They have to have water to be able to survive. Now, he is a very, very unimposing animal. He is probably the safest animal I can bring up, truthfully. There is nothing a frog can really do to us to harm us. But there is a lot that we can do to harm a frog, even without trying, okay? Frog and amphibians are a very special group of animals for one very, very cool, very interesting, and very special reason. As mammals, we breathe through our mouth into our lungs, okay? Our mouth and nose is how we get our air and oxygen into our body. Does anybody know how an amphibian gets the oxygen into his body? Through his head? Partially? Yeah, it's through his skin. A lot of people don't think of skin as an organ, but it is. It's the largest organ in our body, okay? Constantly regenerating and growing and moving, okay? So, the largest organ on this frog's body is also his skin, and that is the organ that he uses to breathe. So, in order to make this happen and to facilitate this, he has a special coating on his body. Now, this coating is something that you guys are all very, very familiar with, okay? Especially little kids, especially during fluid cold season. What do you guys think his body may be covered with? Slime, yeah. Mucus, that's exactly the word I was looking for. That's good. What's mucus? Yeah, it's boogers. It's snot. That's exactly what mucus is. Now, snot and boogers are just one form of mucus, okay, guys? It's kind of the form that we think of the most, and it's absolutely the most disgusting, and it's the one that we try to avoid the most. But mucus is a very, very important substance. Okay? Not only does it line the body of amphibians to allow them to breathe, but it actually lines almost every single one of our internal organs. If we did not have mucus, then we would be in a very, very bad state. Our stomach gases, our stomach acids, for example, when they don't have food in them, when it's not diluted, they rest at about 2 or 3 pH, which is very, very acidic. It's a very strong acid. It's so strong that it can burn through wood. It can burn things really, really well. Now, in order to prevent it from just burning through our stomach and then like falling everywhere, which would be absolutely terrible, totally counterproductive for living, I would think. It's the mucus lining in our stomach that prevents it from doing that, which is really, really cool. So it's a very important thing. A lot of people, again, think it's really gross. Let's get rid of mucus. No mucus. No, we need mucus. It's really important. In fact, even that mucus that's grossly leaking out of our nose when you're wiping on your brother and sister is one of our main defensive strategies against viruses and pathogens, against getting sick. So even that gross stuff that's leaking out when you're sick is really important, okay? You'll notice sometimes when you're sick, you'll blow your nose more. And what happens after you blow your nose when you're really sick? What? Yeah, your nose might get dried up, but sometimes I find my nose actually gets more mucusy. All of a sudden my nose goes into overdrive and it's like, oh man, this guy keeps depleting me of my natural defenses here, so it makes more. And our body does that with a lot of stuff. I'm getting totally off topic here, but it's an interesting topic how we kind of counteract a lot of our body's natural things, like sweating, for example. The more you put deodorant on, you'll actually start to sweat a lot more because your body will overcompensate. Those times when you forget to put deodorant on, and you're like, oh, I've only worn deodorant for like 5 minutes now and I stink. Because your body's compensating because you have stuff like blocking your pores and preventing you from making that natural sweat. Your body's natural physiology, you know what I mean? So, with frogs, I'll move back into amphibians and get back on topic. Their natural mucus coating is important for them to breathe. So what happens, and why we don't let people touch them, is when we touch them with our hands, we not only take off that mucous membrane, we start to pull it off with our hands, but we replace it with the natural oils from our skin. Now these oils, obviously much more denser of a fluid and viscous than the mucus that's on their back, okay? It's not as porous. So what happens is it begins to clog their pores, clog their skin, and it basically starts to suffocate them, okay? They can't actually breathe as well as they could before. This is obviously, without saying, very, very dangerous for them. Another really important thing is that, what time of the year do we usually see frogs? When are we outside and see frogs? Yeah. Like summertime, right? Yeah. So if you're outside in the woods in the summertime on a beautiful summer's day, what are two things that we undoubtedly should have on our body? Sunblock, absolutely. If you're out in the sun, you need sunblock these days. You never go without it. Yeah. And bug spray, that's right. Two things that are arguably good for us or beneficial for our bodies. I say arguably because too much bug spray and stuff like that can still be kind of bad for us. But they're absolutely toxins, absolutely poisons to these guys. So not only when we grab them in the summertime are we replacing their mucus with oils, we're also transferring any of the toxins that we have in our hands from lotions, from perfumes, from sunblock, from bug spray, and we're putting it directly into their body. It's readily absorbed into their body because they're so porous. And it can be very detrimental to their health. So if you guys are out and you're catching frogs, who likes to catch frogs in the summertime? I love it. Yeah, I know, I knew you would. You too, yeah. So I would never tell you not to catch frogs. It's one of the things that gave me the appreciation for animals that kind of got me to where I am today. But I will tell you that when you catch them, try and minimize the amount that you touch them. Minimize your surface area when you're holding them. You notice I'm not holding Booger any other way than he wants to be holding. He's basically touching me. I'm just here. I'm just here to help. You know what I mean? So try and minimize the amount of touch them. Try and minimize how much you rub on their back. And it may not be 100% safe for them, but it's going to absolutely minimize the amount of deleterious effects that you have on their health. It's going to maximize the safety of the handling of the process, okay? Now you guys also notice that Booger is just hanging on to my arm here, okay? I'm going to take a walk around so you guys can see him a little closer. Oh, nice, less close. I'm going to get too close if you can GoPro. Now, does anybody know how frogs are able to stick to